So we're good, right?
There was no countdown.
So today we're going to start the last three words of 61B. The last three words of 61B.
Amar Rav Nachman.
Amar Rav Nachman. See that? Amar Rav Nachman is where it starts. And we're gonna learn 62 today. Nachman says, Nachman is this right here. We're on top of Samach. If you're an expert in the birds, Rashi says that you're only as long as you're a baki in the Paris and Naznia, which these are the two birds that have just one sign, then and if a bird comes with one sign, and you know it's not one of the Paris and Naznia because those birds you know, then it's tar. So you need both here. You need to know them and their names. Rashi says that if the name is Paris, even if it's not a Paris, you still have to be concerned.
Part of the family, you mean?
Because, maybe it's part of that species. But if he doesn't know birds, and he doesn't know their names, so, if it has one siman, then it's tamei, because could be it's a peres or a aznia. B'shnei simanim it's tar. But if it has two signs, we learned there's 4 signs for a kosher bird.
Yes.
Today we're going to switch it a little bit, that it's really 3 signs plus 1, but so far we've been saying that there's 4 signs. The only thing is, v'hu sheyakir oyrev. As long as he knows what the oyrev is. Oyrev is usually a raven. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
What does it say in the English? What's a oyrev? As long as he knows.
Doesn't say.
Just says oyrev?
Yeah.
Alright, that's good enough for me. The Gemara says, oyrev is sulai. He only has to know one bird. The oyrev. V'hatanya. But it was taught in a brisa, oyrev za oyrev laminai. It's not enough in oyrev. Oyrev is including all of its family, all of its species. Rabbi Eliezer, what is it including? Lahavi yasa zarzer.
It's a zarzer. It's a zarzer.
I have a zarzer from the Steinsaltz. I looked it up. It's sternus. It's a type of starling.
How do you spell it? How do you spell it? S-T?
It's a Latin word. S-T-U-R-N-U-S.
So it's a type of bird.
It's a type of starling, yeah. Type of bird. And starnel. Oh, isn't that interesting? Sternal. Maybe that's where they're getting it from. So Rabbi Eliezer says that the oyrev has a relative called zarzer, and that's forbidden as well because it says v'sa'orev leminoi. It's including that. Now, what we're asking here is whether it's the zarzer, whether it's the other birds that the Tanakama was referring to. You can't just know one bird that has 2 signs. Say I know the oyrev, so therefore I found a bird that has 2 of the signs. It's going to be kosher automatically because maybe it's a relative of the oyrev. Amar Leila Rabbi Eliezer, they told Rabbi Eliezer, "V'layanshi kfar tamarta sheb Yehuda hayoichlanaisan mipnei sheish lem zefek." They thought that it was a kosher bird because it has a zefek. Now,
There's 2.
Rashi says that the 2 signs of an oyrev doesn't include the zefek, and this one had a zefek. Zefek is the crop, is that little pouch on the esophagus. But nevertheless, it still only has 2 signs. But the 2 signs are not the 2 signs of the oyrev. Now, Rabbi Eliezer, on the other hand, holds, the Gemara is going to say, and Daf Samachay, that he holds that the Zarzer lives together with the Erev because it's the same family. So even though it's the sign is different, they're cousins.
Possibly.
Right? So they claim to Rabbi Eliezer, why are you saying that the Zarzer is a non-kosher bird? Because it lives with it, but it has a zefek, and people are eating it in the Kfar Tamarta. Amar lahem afei masidin litna sadin. It's not a proof. They're going to have to give judgment for what they're doing. He doesn't back down just because that's what everyone's doing. Davar acher, there's another pshat, leminehu. When it says Erev leminai or leminehu, it's supposed to be leminai actually. On the side it's corrected. Lahavi snunis levana. This is coming to include white snunis. Snunis is another type of bird. In the Steinsaltz he said it's a barn swallow or a house martin.
Snunit, in Israel you see it usually in the winter times. She fly a lot and she gets a lot of birds, flies in the airs. She have a wing like...
What the barn swallow? What other?
House martin.
House martin.
House martin.
House martin.
I don't know the bird. I don't. When I get older, I'm gonna do bird watching. But meanwhile, I haven't taken that up.
You should. You teach, so you need to know your birds.
I know.
I mean, snunit is the modern name for the animal, so I don't know.
It's a different bird.
What is the snunit? Isn't some sort of like agency or something?
No.
Sachanut, you're talking about.
Suchnut,
No, because there's a website for Kodesh Snunit. It's for, I thought it had to do with the educational department or something.
I don't know.
I go to sometimes there's a website that has the, it's called Snunit. I don't know. Maybe they named it after the bird.
With the white?
Okay, so the white Snunit is not a kosher bird. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Amrulai, they told Rabbi Eliezer, Valayanchi galala el yanaychel maisai, nesha karbana niklav. But the people of the Upper Galilee are eating it. Why? Because you can peel off the gizzard. Very good. See how you're not here, you know all the things. You're making it look like you don't have to come. It's not good. So Amar Lahem.
It's Rabbi Google.
So he tells them, Afei Masidin Litna Sadin. They're also going to give the judgment on this. Okay, what we quoted this argument with Rabbi Eliezer, but what we mean to say is that it's really a question on Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman was saying that if you just know these, the Oirev.
But he says Snunit is type of Orev.
Right.
She's a family of the Orev.
Right. So we're saying that if you just know one type of bird, an Oirev, so that's enough. And you can eat any other bird that has two signs. And now we're saying that that's not true because we have other birds that are in the same family of the Oirev, and they're not kosher. So if I recognize the Oirev, it's not enough for me just to go around eating birds saying that, I didn't see any more than two signs in it.
What is a hoopoe? Hoopoe.
What bird is that?
Hoopoe. Hoopoe. What is that in Hebrew?
Duchifat.
Huh?
Duchifat.
Really?
Jimmy's got a picture
That's,
of it.
but this is the Hebrew modern, not the Tanakh.
Oh, because what is it referring to here?
That's what we're looking for.
Now, let me point out Rabbi Eliezer to you. Rabbi Eliezer is that we just quoted is this Rabbi Eliezer here, Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes, and he's the one that argues with Rabbi Yeshua and with the sages. He's the one that gets expelled from the yeshiva because he doesn't give in.
Which is he?
This is Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes.
Which
He's
is
the
the
student
Rabbi
of Rabbi Yochanan
Yehoshua?
ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yeshua is Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Both students, two of the 5 students of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai that are mentioned in Pirkei Avos. And Rabbi Eliezer is very strong-minded. There was the concern with Rabbi Eliezer is that he wouldn't give in to the majority, and it might look like there's more than one Torah. So now we have to answer the problem, because Reb Nachman says that if you know an Erev, then you can eat any bird that has two signs. We say that's not so accurate, because there may be a bird that's similar to an Erev that you don't recognize. So the Gemara modifies Reb Nachman's statement, Ela Erev l'chol min Erev. What it means is that you have to know the Erev and all the family of Erev. Then you can eat any bird that has two signs. I'm talking about if you're like just out there in the wild with a sheichet's knife and you want to eat a bird but you don't recognize it. Well, we're going to see Rashi on the next page before we end today that you really can't get away with that. Amar Ameimar. Ameimar says, Hilchasa. The halacha is, we're getting to the end of the Amaraic period, because we have Ameimar here. Towards the end, he gives us a halacha. Oif haba b'siman echad tar. If a bird comes with one sign, that's going to be tahar. Even if you don't know the names and everything, he says, we're not going to be concerned that it's a peres and a ozniya, because they're not common.
If it's look at the end of Rashi, but Yishuv or Midbais.
It's only in the wild. Yeah. In settled areas, you don't find the peres and ozniya, which were birds that only have one of the kosher signs. There's only two birds that have one kosher sign. So if a bird comes with only one kosher sign, you can be sure that it's not a peres and ozniya. You don't have to be concerned it's a peres and ozniya, because those are only in the wild. V'hu d'lei daras. That's as long as it doesn't claw when it eats. It doesn't, Rashi says, it doesn't hold the food down on the ground and pick up some of it into its mouth. Now, Rashi mentions that when it says v'hu d'lei daras, it doesn't mean that we know for sure that it's lei daras. What he means to say is, as long as we don't see that it's daras. Kol kama d'lei chazinan lei daras. As long as you don't see that it's daras. Now, Taisvis says, Taisvis v'hu d'lei daras, says v'nira li v'hu d'lei daras kalemar ba'isi siman echad haina deina daras. Taisvis says, as long as the one sign that it has is not that sign, because one of the signs was that it doesn't claw. So that's what Taisva says. As long as that one sign is not the clawing sign. See, according to Rashi, we're looking for two signs here. Which sign is that? As long as we don't see it clawing. So what Rashi is going to do is, the Gemara is not going to fit, because what the Gemara is really saying is that it doesn't have two signs. So Rashi therefore modifies v'hu d'lei daras to say it doesn't mean that we know that it's not daras, as long as we don't see it daras. So we really only have one verified sign.
But if you have Mesurah that it does...
okay. That's going to be something else. So what Taisva says is that really what we're doing here is we're looking for one sign, and we're looking for the one sign that's going to tell me that it would go into the category of peres and ozniya, which only have one sign. And since we're not concerned about peres and ozniya, then it's going to be kosher. So it's sort of going back onto the peres and ozniya issue. Now, what does it mean, v'hu d'lei daras? But if it would be daras, then daras itself would make it tamei. That's what we're going to say a little bit later. Okay. Amalei Rav Ashi la Ameimar. Rav Ashi says to Ameimar that, according to Rav Nachman, he said the same thing, that oif haba b'siman echad is tahar, but you needed to know peres and ozniya. And Ameimar says that you don't need to know peres and ozniya. You don't need to know those two birds. So Rav Ashi says to him, Hadar Rav Nachman mai. What about Rav Nachman's statement? Amalei leishmieli. I never heard of that. Kalema leisvirli, which means I don't hold of that. Mayika, what's the problem? Mishum Peres Vaznia. You're worried about Peres Vaznia? Lesna B'Yishuv. Peres and Vaznia are not in the inhabited areas. Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, Oif HaMesarit. This is called, in Steinsaltz, is a barn swallow. Apparently, it flies a lot, and it's not very little on land, so it doesn't use its nails often. So, Mesarit means it scratches. Mm-hmm. So its nails are probably... So its nails are sharp from... So that's kosher letaras mitzayra. That's a kosher bird for the mitzayra. In other words, by the mitzayra, the leper, in his purification process, he needs 2 birds. It says a tzipar. What's a tzipar? Rabbi Yehuda says that this is the oif ha-mesaret. And v'zuhi snunis levana. This is that bird that we said before is an oirev, is a non-kosher bird. However, shenechliku ba Rabbi Eliezer v'chachamim, that the sages argued with the chachamim. Obviously, Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's a kosher bird. Rabbi Yehuda is paskening like the chachamim. There was a machlekes about snunis levana, where Rabbi Eliezer holds that a snunis levana, those people are going to need to give a judgment why they ate it, because it's not kosher. Rabbi Yehuda says no. The snunis levana, according to the chachamim, is the bird that the Mitzayra uses, is the kosher bird. Okay. We said before the snunis levana was either the house martin or the barn swallow.
Yeah, min orev.
According to Rabbi Eliezer, it's min orev, and according to the chachamim, it's not.
And who's this Rabbi Yehuda?
No, that's a little bit later. Amar Rachva, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. That's a little later. Okay. This is Rabbi Yehuda. This is Rabbi Yehuda Bar Yecheskel. He is the student of Rav and Shmuel. The second generation Amayra. Okay. Amar Ameimar. Ameimar says, Ameimar jumps down towards the end of the Talmudic period. Right, Ameimar, right over there. Ameimar says, you're pretty filled up here, Chad.
Yeah. You've touched everybody almost.
That's interesting what you've done there. See how many people get quoted.
Yeah. There's very few blanks so far. We've got.
See, the interesting thing is when you pay attention, you see that there's the common players, if I can use that term, are pretty much the same. You know, every once in a while you get the. So, Ameimar says, he's commenting on what was just said regarding the machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim about the snunis levana, this white bird, white swallow. Bechivra kresa, if the stomach is white, kuli almalei pligi desharya. Apparently, it's a description, not the name of the bird. So, in the description, we're saying, well, what part is white? So if the stomach is white, then everyone agrees that that's a kosher bird. Ki pligi, where is the machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim?
You're talking about the internal or external is white?
External.
I'm assuming it's the outside.
External.
Yeah. No, it's an important question, but I'm making an assumption that that's what it is. Ki pligi b'diyeruka karsa, if it has a yellow or green stomach. Rabbi Eliezer Aser v'Rabbanan Shari. Rabbi Eliezer says that it's forbidden, and the Rabbanan permit it. B'hilchasek Rabbi Eliezer, the halachasek Rabbi Eliezer. Now this is going to be a problem with Rabbi Yehuda. This is an argument on Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda just said that the white snunis is the kosher bird. And this is the bird that Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim argue about. Comes along Ameimar and says, yeah, and the halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer. Which doesn't fit with Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda just said that that's the kosher bird. And the halacha was like the Chachamim. That's what Rabbi Yehuda meant to say. Rabbi Yehuda meant to say that there's a machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim about a bird, and by the way, that's the bird that the sages said is the kosher bird that's used for the mitzvah, which means he's going like the Chachamim, that it's kosher, and he's rejecting Rabbi Eliezer's view. Comes along a Meimar and says that there's actually two possibilities what they're talking about, but the one that they're arguing about, there's one that they agree upon, which is the white stomach, but the one with the yellow stomach, that's the one that they're arguing about, and the halach is like Rabbi Eliezer, which is clearly not going to fit with Rabbi Yehuda. Mar Zutra Masihachi. Mar Zutra, he has a different statement of a Meimar. And Mar Zutra is just one generation away from a Meimar. But he's going to quote a Meimar, and he's going to say it slightly different. It must have been that a Meimar was being quoted. And so his quote for a Meimar goes like this. Bidi Yeruka, Karsa, when the stomach is yellow or green, Yaruk is a little bit confusing what it is, if it's yellow or green. Kuli Almalay, I'm sorry? Kuli Almalay Pligi Da'asr. Everyone agrees that that's forbidden. We just switched this, because in the last statement of a Meimar, we said this is where the machlekes is, the yellow stomach. Now we're saying the yellow stomach, everyone agrees, is aser. Ki pligi, where is the machlekes? B'dechivra karse, where the stomach is white. This is the machlekes. Rabbi Eliezer aser, Rabbanan sharu. Rabbi Eliezer says that it's forbidden, and the Rabbanan permitted. V'hilchasa k'Rabbanan, and the halachas like the rabbis, the sharu, that allow it. Now this fits perfectly with Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says that there is a machlekes, but we paskin like the Chachamim, and that's the bird that the Mitzvah uses. I need to point out that although we just complicated things, but it's actually very simple, because everyone agrees that the white snunis, the white stomach, is kosher. Because Rabbi Yehuda held that it was kosher, because he says that it's machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim, and you go like the Chachamim, and that's the bird that's used for the mitzvah. A Meimar says everyone agrees that the white stomach is kosher. The whole machlekes is by a different bird, and the halacha by that other bird that we're not talking about, the halacha by that other bird is like Rabbi Eliezer. All right, fine. No one was talking about that anyway. Now we go to Mar Zutra, and we say the machlekes is really by the white stomach. And there's a machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim. We go like the Chachamim. So the white stomach is clear that that's the kosher bird. It's just the question is, does it fit with Rabbi Yehuda or not? Because Rabbi Yehuda said that the machlekes, that this is the machlekes. Okay. The Gemara now says, Bishleim alaman namar b'dechivra karsei pligi. If we say that the machlekes is by the white stomach, hainu diktani zui snunis levana. This is what it means, snunis levana, the white bird. That's what we're talking about, because it's white. And we said this is the machlekes, and it fits with Rabbi Yehuda. I'm not learning according to Rashi. You'll see. Give me a second. But if you learn according that the machlekes is by the yellow stomach, my zuis nunis levana. What does it mean that this is the white bird? Lafuki debati de ukmi. It's saying that it's not dark. It's calling it white because it's not dark. There was a house swallow, I guess, it's very dark. We call this white because even though it's yellow. Okay. Now Rashi states that he says in his Hachi Garsinan, he says V'loy Garsinan shenechleku ba, which means we just did a bishlaima. Bishlaima means we can explain what we've just said if we say according to one opinion, but according to the other opinion, it's not going to work out well. Now, what was the statement that we just said? So the way I wanted to learn this was that we made a statement from Rav Yehuda, that Rabbi Yehuda says that the bird that's used in the purification process of the leper was the white snunus, and that's the one that was argued about between Rabbi Lezer and the. Now, according to the opinion that says that they're arguing about the white snunus, very good, Rabbi Yehuda fits. But according to the opinion that they're arguing about the yellow stomach, so what does it mean that they're arguing about the white snunus? He says, well, it's not dark. Okay. Rashi says, we're not explaining Rabbi Yehuda here. This Bishleima is going back on the very first statement that we made earlier, that there's a machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer, and the sages regarding a white snunus. We're going back to earlier. And we're just asking on the color white. We're not asking on where the machlekes is. Just the color white. Why is it called white if it's not white? If you said that it's yellow. So for that, he says, well, at least it's not dark. So that's why they called it white. In other words, what's the difference here? Is when it says Bishleima, it's explaining, it's saying that I can only read this according to one way. According to another way, it's not going to work. What am I trying to read? Am I trying to read the statement of Rabbi Yehuda, or am I trying to read the statement of the Mishnah that went before? Rashi says we're trying to read the Mishnah before, and we're just discussing the color white. If you don't learn like Rashi, then what you would learn is, you see, Bishleim Lamanda Amar B'chivra Kresa Pligi. Hainu Diktani Zuis Ninis Levana Shenechlakuba. This is, if I say that they're arguing about the Snunis Levana, then Rabbi Yehuda's words would make sense. Rabbi Yehuda says that this is the white swallow that they argued about, and that would be explaining the second statement of Ameimar, Mar Zutra's explanation of Ameimar. But the first statement of Ameimar doesn't fit with Rabbi Yehuda, the way we explained it. Okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. We've explained why it could be called the Snunis Levana, even though it's yellow, because we're contrasting it to the dark one. Amar Rachva Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Tosfos says that it says Rabbi Yehuda, but it's really supposed to be Rav Yehuda. Because Rachva is a student of Rabbi Yehuda, so he calls him Rabbi, but really it's Rav. We're discussing the Yud at the end of the word Rav. It's supposed to be. There's a difference between Rav and Rabbi. Rav means that he came from Babylonia. Rabbi is from Eretz Yisrael, very good. But here, Amar Rachva, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, we don't know who Rabbi Yehuda is. So he says it's really Rabbi Yehuda, but he calls him Rabbi because Rabbi is my teacher.
Maybe he came to Eretz Yisrael.
Rabbi Yehuda never went to Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah,
He held that it's forbidden to leave Bavel.
They
That's the Gemara Ksubas.
That's very nice.
Tsil, which is a type of bird,
Min
we're going to... What did you say?
Yoina.
Oh. Later on, it may be, according to Steinsaltz, it may be Manumea. Manumea is the name of a bird. This tsil, Pasal Mishum Torah and V'kashem Mishum B'nei Yaina. Remember in the Torah it says that there's doves and there's turtle doves, or there's pigeons, we call them. The B'nei Yaina we translate it as pigeons. So he says that this bird, it has to go under the category of the B'nei Yaina. Why? Doesn't say. But what does it mean, the category of the B'nei Yaina? That when you're bringing Tairim, when you're bringing these doves, the Tairim, the doves or turtle doves, whichever one, a tar, you have to bring it older. When you bring a Ben Yaina, You have to bring it younger.
Yeah, we learned that.
We learned this. Now, the tzil is this bird that needs to go under one of the categories. Which category does it go under? So, Rachva says, in the name of Rav Yehuda, that it goes under the Bnei Yaina. Okay.
Young.
So
Therefore, it needs to be brought young.
that's a question.
Yeah.
We learned earlier, I think there was a Rashi that said animals that are kosher to eat is a subset of animals that are kosher for korbanos, or a subset of animals that are kosher to eat.
Okay.
Is it the same way with birds? If a bird is eligible for carbon, does it mean it's kosher?
Yeah, automatically, yeah.
Automatically.
Yeah. Here we're discussing which. See, sometimes you can just bring an animal, and you say, "Oh, I don't know if it's a cow or a goat, but it doesn't matter. I'm bringing it as a shlamim." But when it comes to the birds, it does matter, because if it's a certain type of bird, it needs to be brought older. If it's a there's the strict laws about the age of the bird, under which family of bird it's going. So that's what he's saying. It goes under the Bnei Yaina. The Atzife. Atzife is another type of bird. V'tayrin shel Rachba, and these pigeons of Rachba, or doves of, they're ksherim mishum tayrim. Those are kosher as tayrim. However, psulim mishum b'nei yaina. They need to be brought older. They can't be brought under the category of the pigeons of the b'nei yaina. Masav Rav Daniel bar Rav Katina. Rav Daniel, son of Rav Katina, asks the question, Kol ha'ifos. I'm not familiar with Rav Daniel is not a common name in the Gemara. The Rav Katina is more common, but I don't see him on the chart. So, Kol ha'ifos, he says like this. Kol ha'ifos paislin meichatas chutz min hayayna. Mipnei shemeitzetzes. Here's the rule. The water of the para aduma, the water of the red heifer, they had to take it from a spring. No work was allowed to be done with it. And if a bird would drink from it, it would be a problem, because that would be considered like it was held in its mouth, and then it released it back into the water when that was considered work was done with it. If it was held in a container, or there was another problem of possibly some saliva came out and went into the water and that diluted it, or that would